Could be someone else's fault.
It's never a good sign when you wake up wearing a wig.
And balanced its substance-abusing mess.
Jacob Murray gained consciousness on January the 1st like any other decent, hard-working dipsomaniac.
Stuck to the carpet in a stranger's house with only one eye open.
Little did he know that the next 11 minutes would alter his life forever.
As he lay analysing exactly how his body moved, recollecting the first precious baby steps,
he was surprised to discover you actually have quite a broad scope with only the one eye in use.
His very left was a hairy foot complete with bulky toes decorated in red nail varnish. Behind collapsed bodies and scattered empty wine bottles was his centre view, his scraggly, worn-out reflection in a mirror.
Confused as to why he was caked in makeup, parading a curly blonde wig and fashioning chandelier-like earrings, he quickly moved to his view on the right.
Could be someone else's fault.
Now this is what caught his eye the most, for he recognised the sassy underwear on display.
He had bought that exact bra with matching knickers for his wife Abby whilst on holiday in Italy last year.
what threw him was that as far as he was concerned, Abby wasn't at the party last night.
Still laying on the floor with both eyes now wide open.
Jacob Murray felt increasingly unsettled.
He knew he had arrived at the stranger's house for a reason, but for the life of him he couldn't think why.
He started to believe that something even more sinister than his blonde wig was awry. It could be someone else's bra,
he thought. Although saying that, Abby's bra was handmade by a diminutive 80-year-old Italian man whose lingerie shop was behind a miniature door.
Down a miniature alleyway.
In a microscopic village, but hey, it was still a possibility.
Bits and pieces started to flood back into his memory. He'd gone to the party last night to find his wife, but had no luck.
Jacob sprawled out and stretched his limbs. He seemed to stand up in slow motion, mainly because of the awkward and twisted position his body had been curled up in all night, but subconsciously delaying what might be laying ahead.
It's never a good sign when you wake up wearing a wig.
He removed it and flung it into a corner.
He then unclipped the earrings a little too easily and wiped the fluorescent pink lipstick he sported onto his arm. Once he'd clambered over crowded ashtrays and hopscotched around broken glass, he picked up the bra in question and shamelessly held it against his face.
He closed his eyes and breathed in.
His head hung low when he realised it had the same celebrity-endorsed perfume his wife wore. Finding her matching knickers scrunched up to the right where the bra was found didn't help matters one bit. In fact, it rocketed him directly onto the ledge of giddy suspiciousness.
Jacob did his best to talk himself down with some practical internal dialogue.
Come on, Jacob. There could be a zillion explanations for these finds. Stop being so bloody paranoid.
For example, your wife could have got to the party late, seen you conked out on the living room floor, and started undressing as she made her way to find a spare room and a comfortable bed to sleep in.
It seemed plausible enough. He carried on with his detective work, but not before eloquently falling up the stairs by tripping over a pair of jeans, complete with fire engine red underpants tucked inside. Whoever had left these were in a real hurry.
A cold shiver descended throughout him, right from his hanging head to his freezing toes.
He felt for a wallet within a trouser pocket. Bingo.
Once removed, he opened it slowly. The driving licence confirmed details that pushed him over the edge.
Charlie Brookstein was unfortunately a name he recognised and did not want to be reading at that exact moment. With connection to the police force and flat-nosed criminals, Charlie Brookstein had the world at his oversized feet.
He was the proud owner of a brown leather wallet, some worn-out jeans, and a pair of fire engine red Y fronts. It then fell into place. Chuck, as he was more commonly known, was also the proud owner of his wife's heart.
Jacob's calm inner voice rapidly quietened. He stood at the bottom of the staircase. His heartbeat ricocheted through his entire body, as if to remind him that he was still alive.
The found attire was beginning to resemble a twisted version of Hansel and Gretel.
As he reluctantly dragged himself to the top of the stairs, Recent events started to race around his mind. Every step seemed to present him with missing pieces of a sordid jigsaw puzzle.
Abby had been moonlighting at a pub a couple of nights a week to finally pay off her student loan.
Feeling guilty about her lack of free evenings, he had made a surprise visit to the pub last week. With hindsight, she had seemed a bit uneasy with his presence. She had been quick to advise he go home and put his feet up, and that's about the time he noticed something wasn't quite right.
He was leaning over the bar talking to her when the cellar door flung open.
A wild-haired Lothario-type creature danced up from beneath.
Like a Beelzebub rising from the underworld.
His tanned, designer stubble-clad face beamed with wickedness. His smile was drenched in sin. When he reached Earth's surface, he bent over to close the cellar door. His long dark locks swamped his face, and his head beamed between his lengthy legs.
"Stop gazing at my arse, Abby, you pervert!"
He shouted in his gritty, chesty voice with a wink and a smile.
He jumped over the bar and Mick jagged his way over to the crowded dance.
Jacob stalled halfway up the stairs and remembered how, with that comment, Abby had tried her best to mask her smile, and how, when he'd queried it, she had said,
That's just my manager Chuck, he flirts with everyone.
Recently, she'd been working overtime and sometimes slept in the spare room above the bar when it was too late to get home.
He reached the top of the stairs with 1,000 questions.
How could he have been so stupid?
How could he have let this happen?
What would he do if we found them in bed together?
Maybe he didn't need to find them all. Maybe he could just walk back downstairs right now, convince himself that it was all in his head, and carry on being happily married. Jacob inhaled a deep breath. He paused and looked around before exhaling.
The hallway was decorated in nothing but beige. Beige wallpaper, beige ceiling. He didn't know anyone that would decorate so tastelessly.
How he got to wake up in a stranger's house was not important right now. All that mattered was the task at hand.
Pondered which one of the 3 closed doors on the landing might unlock a lifetime's worth of heartbreak. As a successful life coach, it was around this time that his professional positivity attempted to convince him that everything was rosy again.
His endorphins and white blood cells started fizzing away. Surely this was just another case of a hangover intoxicating his brain with paranoid dribble. Surely there was a logical explanation to all of this.
So if there was nothing to be frightened of, there wasn't any harm in opening the doors, right?
When he opened the door number 1, he found a sleeping Labrador and a bunch of coats on a bed. He knew his wife could be adventurous, but not to that extent. He opened the next door with bated breath.
It was a bathroom. The only offenders here were even more beige and a dripping shower head.
As he trod towards the final room, something stopped him in his tracks. A shiny object caught his eye by the foot of the door.
He glided through the molecules like a bewitched magpie. The closer he got, the more recognisable the object became.
He bent down to pick it up. Shit! It was Abby's wedding ring. The same wedding ring which he had inherited from his late grandmother.
The same pricey heirloom that Abby had desperately dieted for her finger to fit.
This was the only object to Jacob's name that was financially and even more so emotionally valuable.
There comes a time in a man's life when the only thing left to do is to face the terror that awaits him.
But that time was not this time. Jacob turned around, ran into the bathroom and locked the door. He felt sick and wanted to leave straight away, but knew he couldn't leave without some answers.
He slammed down into the empty cold bath. His eyes welled up, but his tears were too proud to fall. He shook his head in disbelief as flashbacks of last night and occurrences finally came flooding back.
Can I have a beer, Jiggy lad? Abby was getting ready to go to work at the pub. She was in a hurry as her cab was patiently waiting outside. Jacob
passed the bedroom and saw that she was struggling to do up her black dress.
Yeah, let me do that.
As he took to the zip, he noticed that she was wearing the blue bra that was bought on their honeymoon.
I thought you only wore this on special occasions.
He'd asked with a knowing smirk.
This is special, it's New Year's Eve.
She'd replied frostily. She grabbed her bag and went to leave, and he had followed her to the front door.
Abby, do you really have to work tonight, of all nights?
Abby turned around to acknowledge Jacob's desperation.
Listen, I know things haven't been right and we need to talk. Have a good night and we'll get it all off our chests tomorrow.
Wait.
Jacob grabbed his wife's arm and pulled her close to him.
Can you not even kiss your husband goodbye?
Their eyes locked, and just when their lips went to meet, for what seemed to be like the first time in months, the patient cab driver became impatient and flexed his bibbing muscle.
She shook herself out of the moment.
He tried to inject some comic relief into all the exhausting tension.
They're never usually on time.
But the excellent choice of a humorous line fell on deaf ears. She turned to leave, slamming the door behind her.
As Jacob lay in the bath, the shower had dripped a cold drop of water every 10 seconds, without fail. This didn't bother him in the slightest. In fact, he rather enjoyed the consistency which had been recently missing in his life. Plus, it helped him to reach sobriety, which consequently chained together the final missing links of how he came to be laying in the stranger's bathtub at 9 AM on a New Year's Day.
After Abby had left, he went into the kitchen just in time to see his friend Ginger braiding the fridge.
Ginger Lightfoot was a skeletal, lanky figure of a man.
Although friends at primary school, they had lost touch as teenagers when Jacob's family moved from Wales to London.
Now both aged 34, Ginger had galloped into Jacob's life an unbalanced, bearded, substance-abusing mess.
He had hitched his way to London, tracked down his old school chum, and, well, just never left his side. He had persuaded an unwilling Jacob to sign him up as a customer to his life coaching company, but had
long since stopped paying for his services by breaking down the barrier between trader and clientele with an alarming persistence.
Jacob had given in to all the calls and messages, confessing to himself that Ginger had become a great pal again.
"Can I have a beer, Jakey lad?"
As usual, Ginger was oblivious to awkward atmospheres.
My life's falling apart, Ginger. I can't think about drinking right now.
Ginger had ignored the plea, just like Jacob had ignored his.
"Look, the only responsible thing to do on New Year's Eve is to get off your trolley. You're not making any sense right now."
Alright, just a couple. We've got to figure this thing out.
Jacob had given in too easily. "Oh, sure, buddy. Whatever you say," Ginger gingerly replied.
He armed himself with 2 beers, a full bottle of tequila and 2 shot glasses.
They made their way to the living room just in time to witness the familiar scene of Jacob's pet Alsatian pricking her ears up and hurriedly leaping off the settee.
"Why does Bex always run away when I come near her?"
An unusually sensitive Ginger had pondered as they slumped onto the couch.
It beats me. Jacob muttered under his breath, whilst he enviously glanced towards Bex freely speeding away.
"You know what, Jakey? You and Abby will sort your issues out. You're made for each other."
Ginger, unconvincedly enthused, attempting to lighten the mood.
Thanks, mate, but it just hasn't been the same since you started working at that bar. I know something's going on. It's her manager, Chuck. I've got a bad feeling about him.
Ginger took advantage to what he thought was Jacob finally coming to his senses.
He stood up defiantly and with great gusto shouted,
"You need to wake up, Jacob. You've got a great house, a brilliant company, and a nice haircut. Not to mention a handsome beast of a best mate. But you're married to Medusa."
"Don't talk about it like that!"
Realising they'd crossed the line, Ginger slumped back down to the sofa.
"Okay, I'm sorry, mate. Listen, when the shit hits the fan, well, you've got to fight, 'cause otherwise, Jakey, you'll get covered in shit."
"Right, thanks. I'll remember that,"
Jacob said, confused at the remark, realising that wasn't getting anywhere. Ginger put his serious voice on. "All I'm saying is, you haven't been yourself in a while now. Just think, you're a goddamn life coach. You're paid to sort out other people's messy lives, but you need to sort out your own once in a while too."
"Well, I guess that's why I've sorted yours out so well, isn't it? I mean, you're a drug-abusing, out-of-work window cleaner, and you've just turned up tonight with a bin liner full of your clothes."
Jacob dryly quipped.
"Are you kidding me? Jacob, you saved my life. Without your advice, I'd be on the streets, he protested.
Yeah, but Ginger, your landlady kicked you out today. You are on the streets.
Ignoring the dig, Ginger replied with a compliment.
You're the best at what you do, Jakey. Everybody knows it. And may I kip on your sofa for the next week or so? Jacob ignored the compliment and requested a favour.
Well, you seem to be full of advice this evening. What do I owe you for this consultation?
Love, Mr. Murray, is like a bird's nest. There's always some fucker waiting to swoop down and steal what's yours. Think about that. Obviously this vulture, Chuck, has been preying on her, waiting for the right moment to pounce and steal your nest, your bird, and sit on your eggs.
My eggs?
Jacob questioned, now extremely bewildered. Yes, your eggs! Now, what I suspect we do is head up to the bar, pay them a little visit, and catch them out.
Ginger, we can't do that. I'm probably being paranoid anyway. She hasn't invited me and she'll be furious if she thinks we're spying.
Alright, let me tell you this. Your recent lack of enthusiasm has led to a lull in clients. Your friend's disappearing and now it looks like it's affected your marriage too. I hope I'm wrong, pal. But don't you want to find out for yourself? Come on, prove me wrong.
Jacob glanced over at a blown-up photo which hung on the wall of him and his wife on their wedding day.
Suppose I need to know.
He agreed. His vocal cords dragging their heels in.
He could be tonguing her right now, Ginger pointed out with the kind of calm tone that suggested he'd won the argument.
I'll get changed.
Jacob realized it was time for immediate action. When he came back downstairs in the one suit he owned, he found Ginger's attire to be a very quiet taste.
Not the foxy purple jacket, not tonight, Ginger. If I find my wife cheating on me, then I want to come across a man of integrity. That's hard to pull off and it looks like I've got Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch behind me.
What have you got against the foxy purple jacket? Ginger argued. It's legendary. This belonged to a roadie of Jimi Hendrix, who, might I add, said Jimmy once vomited on it.
With that, he picked up his tequila and proudly smirked.
The next thing he remembered was falling out of a cab with Ginger and clumsily entering the watering hole where Abby and Chuck worked.
Once inside, he had stumbled towards the bar to majestically fight for his estranged wife, whilst Ginger had Michael Jacksoned his way onto the crowded dance floor.
There was no sign of her or Chuck anywhere.
He'd asked the barman where Abby was, and reservedly he'd given the address of a house party she and a few of the bar staff had scampered off to.
Jacob remembered how odd it was that she wasn't working like she said, but instead had gone to a house party.
He awkwardly shuffled his way to the dance floor and easily found the only person dancing alone, Ginger. Just as the crowd screamed the 10-second countdown to midnight, he approached his footloose friend.
We're leaving!
Jacob had stubbornly shouted.
Come on, mate, we're only just getting started here.
Ginger had retaliated.
But Ginger, we're going to a house party filled to the brim with orgies, whiskies and hardcore drugs.
Jacob had lied.
Happy New Year!
Ginger had hastily replied with a wide smile on his face.
The boozy pair had fallen out of another extortionately priced cab in the middle of nowhere and had woozily marched up the stony driveway.
With puffed out chests and all the dignity they could muster, they stomped to the rhythm of a pounding drumbeat that boomed from the house.
I'm gonna kill the bastard.
Ginger angrily spat out before tripping headfirst into a bush.
Why, how kind of you, Ginger?
Jacob had slurred back whilst overpressing the doorbell with an eager finger.
An equally sloshed lady answered the door. She had an alarmingly deep voice and an alarmingly confrontational tone. If you're here for the party, there's no more room.
All the while spitting leaves out of his mouth, Ginger decided to take the sincere approach.
You don't understand. We're here to take vengeance on a cheating wife and a playboy barman. Okay, you better come in then. But we'll have to find something more comfortable for you to both slip into.
The burly lady man laughed as they both nervously entered the house.
Once inside, they had noticed a lot of butch ladies dancing.
Jacob had a vague memory of wigs, makeup and earrings being thrown to him and Ginger as they passed hallways and different themed rooms with what seemed like hundreds of sweaty bodies.
Abby was nowhere to be found. Nobody had heard of her, and because of the heavy European dance music being pumped out of the stereo, they often couldn't hear Jacob's pleas anyway. The hours passed, and Jacob and Ginger lost each other in the heat of the dark, loud night. As Ginger crowd surfed in one room, Jacob passed out in another.
The shower head was still dripping that same cold drip onto his head every 10 seconds. Jacob snapped out of the reminiscing. He knew what he had to do. He stood up and placed his feet onto the beige mat.
He calmly unlocked the bathroom door and entered the hallway with all the grace and anticipation of a panther eyeing up his prey.
He reached the door in question, gently pushed the handle down and quietly pushed it forward. Jacob Murray witnessed a naked Abby Murray calmly dozing in the arms of a snoring Chuck Brookstein for a split second only, but it may as well have been for 1,000 years. Acting as armour, his eyelids shut down tightly.
He stepped back into the hallway and gently closed the door.
It's never a good sign when you wake up wearing a wig.